Hi, this is Steve Wiedemann, your friendly neighborhood SEO, and today we're going to be walking very quickly through a technical SEO audit framework. This framework works well as a prerequisite for websites that are just being built from the ground up. Hand this over to your web dev team and say, hey, please do these things to ensure that our website is search engine friendly, and later on we're going to write content that's optimized for search. So let's start with the beginning here. We're going to look at some high priority items. We're going to get down into medium priority, and then those things that are really not as critical to our SEO, but still can play an incremental role. In this overview, again, when we talk about effort impact, this is really going to help your development team know what to prioritize. Our high priority items include things like core web vital testing, and you can perform a Google search and look for core web vitals testing tools. You'll find several of them out there. Most of them are free. I like tools like webpagetest.org, and of course there's always the free tools in the Google Chrome developer toolset as well. These, by the way, these core web vitals really affect the page speed for users who are accessing our content and help the users have a good experience when the page loads, as opposed to it bouncing around or taking a long time for content to load. Verifying that GDPR is addressed. If we are selling in Europe or any of the countries that require GDPR in Europe, we do want to make sure that we have that little pop-up that lets the user know that they can opt out of any sort of tracking and privacy. Manual actions. This is important. We'll log into our Google Search Console. We'll take a look to make sure that there's no manual actions. No matter how great our technical SEO is, if our site is penalized, none of it's going to help, and we want to get out of that penalty box. No security issues in Google Search Console as well. Make sure that there isn't any sort of site compromised, any hacks or malware. Run some security checks. You can use Google Search Console to look to see if there's any errors, but there's a lot of third-party tools you can use as well. We want to make sure our website passes all the safe browsing tests. So there are multiple tools out there that you can use. Simply do a search for safe browsing tests at Google, and you'll find that URL. McAfee and Norton both will put a little icon next to your search listing if your listing has been deemed not safe or not reviewed. So we do want to make sure that our site goes through those audits and that those tools find the site to be safe. If we don't, what could happen is the user might see our result. It could affect whether they click on our result or not. Google doesn't know why they clicked or didn't click, so let's not give them any sort of guessing, and make sure that we have those appropriate badges next to our listings for those users who have that software installed or the browser extensions. Virus detection scans. So definitely make sure you run your virus detection scan to make sure that there isn't anything that's compromised the website. HTTPS by default. You'll want to use a tool like Screaming Frog or SEMrush, or any tool that will enable you. There's also another one called SiteLiner that you can run. Any tool that will enable you to see how many HTTP and how many HTTP URLs you have within links. And let's make sure they're all updated to HTTPS. That includes the includes for images and scripts and anything that we're rendering in the browser. Let's make sure it's always HTTPS. We do want to make sure we have a robots text file. It's a very simple file that you can see on this screen. And what we want to include in here is a URL to the XML sitemap that lists all the pages on the website. Most of the time you're using some sort of an SEO tool that generates this for you. If not, of course you can use, like I'd mentioned earlier, Screaming Frog, run a crawl, create an XML sitemap with that. There's also some free XML sitemap generators available online that you can run your website to through that might have a cost associated. Next, we want to make sure that our page speed score is in the green. So this is something you can run in Lighthouse in the Google Developer Tools in Chrome. So just go to the Developer Tools section in Chrome, run Lighthouse, and let's try to get that score into the 90s if we can. Mobile friendly isn't something we have to worry as much about these days. All websites are predominantly mobile friendly. I would be very shocked if you were developing a website that wasn't made to be mobile friendly, seeing as Google is mobile first, and most users access content that's not business related or B2B related with their mobile device. A responsive design is critical to being mobile friendly, so we do want to make sure that our site is responsive. Navigation should be text-based. Don't use images as your primary navigation, and where you can, avoid using things like Java or any sort of programming that doesn't allow a search engine to be able to see the text and to see an ahref anchor tag. Right? If it doesn't say ahref equals and some sort of a URL, it's not likely search engines will be able to crawl and pass PageRank or voting power through that URL. We do want to make sure we've identified all the 404 errors on our site and corrected them. That can really cause havoc for users and search engines. Our privacy policy should be on every page of the website. In some cases, we can test and experiment removing the link and just making sure that there's a reference to the privacy that can be accessed, so we can pass more PageRank to more important pages and stop voting so much for pages that we really don't care as much about from an SEO standpoint. But use at your own discretion. Probably safer just to link your privacy policy page. If we can get all of our scripts into Tag Manager, we can load them all in one swoop using asynchronous loading. It's very fast and efficient, and a great way to enable marketing teams to add scripts whenever they want to the website without having to open up a ticket with the web developers or get in the MarTech backlog. Let's try to get our pages under 2 seconds. There are lots of tools that you can test with. There's tools.pingdom.com. There's webpagetest.org that I mentioned earlier, and of course there's the Google toolset as well. Breadcrumbs are critical. It helps search engines understand how our site's organized and helps LLMs understand our site architecture and site structure and what is a pillar and a cluster page or peripheral content in support of some main topic or pillar that we want to appear for. Really important to use breadcrumbs where we can, when we can. Both Google and Bing promote their documentation on it, so we know it's important. So it's actually webpagetest.org in the screen. It shouldn't be webpage.org, but this is a great tool to use to see where there's opportunity to improve our content. And every single case that I've seen in an effort to improve it, I've seen great results for both the users and, of course, long-term rankings. Same thing, we want to look at our homepage and priority page. Usability best practices. My favorite usability and conversion rate tip is to make sure there's a floating footer of some sort. If you're a restaurant chain or just a single restaurant, it could be a floating order now, get directions, or just order now if you really want to focus on online orders. You can see how Home Depot does this in their footer on products. They enable a floating footer to allow you to select that item without having to scroll the page to figure out where to do so. It's a great way to keep users knowing exactly what they should be doing. Let's avoid intrusive pop-ups if we can do so. If the pop-up is, initial offer from somebody who hits the homepage or a paid ad, I think it's fantastic. If they hit the site from organic search, though, I would avoid using pop-ups out the gate because it makes them have to click something to view the content. And search engines know that because they will, in many cases, actually render JavaScript and understand it. So do an exit pop-up instead of an entrance pop-up if they came from organic. If they came from any other medium, direct or paid search or a banner ad or email marketing, then by all means, pop up all you want to. But from an SEO standpoint, let's not do that. Or if we have to, let's delay that pop-up to give the user a chance to use the page before we present them with an offer. Accessibility. I like the Wave Chrome extension to initially test accessibility, but you could probably do some research and find folks that will do affordable accessibility website testing it's totally worth it because the incremental on those users who have accessibility challenges will appreciate it, and every point matters when it comes to our ranking scores. Next are our medium priority items. These aren't quite as important, but they're still important in terms of long-term SEO. Sometimes older content management systems, CMSs, will have the root URL, site.com, and the root URL /index or /homepage or /default.aspx, and they're redundant to one another. So we want to make sure that all of those extra homepage and default and index at the root, as well as in categories on our website, all just use the canonical of the root URL. Makes it super easy. If you change from a Windows server to an Apache server, you don't have to worry about redirecting default to index or any of that sort of thing. It just stays canonical to that root URL. And it helps with crawl budget as well, as all these search engines are hitting our website. They're not going to see multiple versions and have to think. Let's avoid giving them any friction or any extra thinking they have to do, and just use the default URL, not index, not homepage, not default. Okay, confirmation pages. Let's not skew our analytics. Let's look at our XML sitemap and our HTML sitemap to make sure that we're not allowing users or search engines to find those thank you pages. Thanks for your order. Thanks for signing up. Thanks, whatever that confirmation page happens to be. It doesn't need to be shown to search engines because that's something a user gets to after they've already completed an action on our website. So let's remove those from those sitemaps. Let's put a little tag on there that says don't index this page, and that'll help our analytics a bit. Content Delivery Network is a fantastic way to speed up your website. One of our favorites, at kind of an industry standard, is Cloudflare. Cloudflare didn't start as a content delivery network, but it ended up having a pretty darn good one after years of continuous optimization. And so what's great about this is instead of the user having to wait for your website files to come from your web server, there's a cloud version of it that's basically everywhere in the world, and they can just reach into the cloud and grab that content, as opposed to the many different hops that your computer will have to make to be able to access the content directly from the server. Custom 404 pages. If somebody's linking to a page and it goes away, we still want the user to be able to have a good experience. So you can see the example here. Looks like you flipped over to a broken page, and we have some elements on there, such as view our specials, order now, here's popular pages, and geez, if you can get a search box on that page, you'll be crushing it. And then, of course, over time, you want to make sure any new links that are going to the website get redirected to their appropriate spot. But sometimes people mistype when they're creating links to our site. And so when that happens, we want to give them the best 404 experience as possible. Duplicate content. There's so many reasons we can have duplicate content. We could have an extra trailing slash. We can have special parameters at the end of the URL. So some things that we can do there to mitigate that and to work to not have so many duplicate content issues. These are the ones that are related to technical, not where we accidentally created a copy of a page. This is where the server perhaps is allowing search engines to access the URL with the trailing slash and without a trailing slash, with the www prefix and without the www prefix, with HTTPS and without, with HTTP, all the different ways that search engines can find the same content across multiple URLs. The easiest way to manage it, of course, is using a canonical tag. It just says, hey, search engine, regardless of how many ways you get to this content, this is the actual page we want in your index. But if we can reduce the chance of the search engine finding that duplicate content, that can help our crawl budgets, help reduce friction, help reduce thinking, so on and so forth. You can find this in your analytics. Here's an example from one website. You can also go into your Google Search Console and find that under your pages as well. If we can make the global navigation relevant to every user, we can help minimize the thinking that a user has to perform when they're on the page. So, for example, if somebody is looking for a truck accident lawyer, and you're a personal injury attorney, when they click on truck accident lawyer in the search results, everything in the nav should be about truck accident lawyer, what to do after a truck accident, causes and negligence and maintenance issues, the types of trucks that you might get in an accident with, as sort of a silo within that website. If you can create that nav or a sub-navigation under your primary nav, it really personalizes it to that user. Going back to our page speed scores, now we're looking at our desktop. Before we were looking at mobile. We do want to try to get those numbers up, but I would prioritize mobile. That's why mobile is in the high priority. By the way, when you optimize for mobile page speed, most of the time you're also optimizing for desktop. But again, I put this in the medium because fewer of your users, unless you're B2B, are going to be on desktop. So now we're looking at the HTML sitemap. What's great about this one is it allows users to see the actual name of the page they're going to be going to if they use the HTML sitemap to find something, and that's if you don't have a search box on your site. And it helps search engines because the words that are used in the links within the HTML sitemap can help with classifying what the page is about, sort of like a sign above the door. Search engines see the sign, they go, oh, this page must be about truck accident lawyer. Then they navigate through and they see, oh yeah, the title and the heading and the content's all about truck accident lawyer. But before they even get to that page, that link can really make a difference. Oh, by the way, the HTML sitemap can also help when you accidentally create a page and don't link it from any other page. You orphan that page by creating an HTML sitemap. It always allows for a way for search engines and users to get and access that content if they hit your homepage first. Mirrored websites. So if you've got multiple websites floating around out there, then you probably want to take a look to make sure that they're all pointing through a redirect to that primary domain. If you've got dozens of them, you may redirect all of them to one version and then just redirect that one version to your primary website. That way it doesn't look like to the search engines you're buying a bunch of websites and using redirections as a means to try to rank your site, but instead you're funneling them all down. That was a little trick I learned from Bruce Clay back in the day. Internal redirects replaced with that final URL. So let's just go through a crawl tool like Screaming Frog, and if we see a list of 301 redirects or 302 redirects, let's just address those and make sure that that the links that are pointing to those pages that are redirecting are just updated with the final page that they should be going to. There's no reason to create extra crawls for search engines or to confuse a user who clicks on a link and sees the URL change. Titles and meta descriptions should be customizable for every page and different from the H1 tag. Other SEOs might argue me. This is my experience. My experience is that if we use the same long phrase in the title in the heading, then we're going to rank great for that long phrase. But our goal is to rank for the shorter, more competitive phrase. So if we can use our most important keyword in our title tag that's shown in the search listing, and then use our second supportive semantic variation of it in the H1 tag, then we're hitting two different keywords that are semantic to each other and giving us a broader opportunity to rank for the more competitive keyword that we're using in that title. An example might be personal injury lawyer would be something we'd use in a title tag, and personal injury attorney might be something we'd use in the H1. Law firm, personal injury law firm might be something we use in an H2. We don't really have to worry as much about HTTPS 2 anymore. Most servers have this covered, but it doesn't hurt. Just run a quick HTTP 2 test, make sure everything is what it should be. You do need HTTPS to be able to do this, but I don't know many sites that don't anymore. Get rid of any excessive functionality you don't need. Users don't need a bunch of sliders and carousels and things moving around and animations, right? They're there for a purpose. They want to get something done and they want to move on. Have a very clean, well-organized, simple, easy to use, aesthetically pleasing site, and limit all that extra functionality. It just adds extra JavaScript that makes your pages load longer. It opens the door for the site being compromised and hacks happening because you're using all these extra scripts. Just minimize that. You really don't need it. If you want to run a test with functionality and without functionality in terms of excessive functionality features, I encourage you to do so. You're going to find that users have a much better experience when there's not a lot going on. Our XML sitemap should not contain any errors, and that sitemap should update every time you create new content, remove new content. That sitemap should be pretty dynamic in nature. And there's plugins and extensions for most content management systems that do this automatically for you. Next is we want to avoid having duplicate headings and subheadings. This can happen when we use subheadings in the global navigation, such as the footer. Maybe in the footer section we've got more about us and then our about page and news and whatever. Instead, let's show the search engines as they're looking at this page that we're written like a thesis. We've got a title and a heading and subheadings that are all unique to that page. And so what we do with those global navigation things that show up maybe in a sidebar or in a footer across the entire website, let's use a span tag instead of a subheading. That will enable every page to appear completely unique and helpful, and not have to have search engines try to figure out what these block areas are and whether those subheadings should apply to the page itself or should apply to the whole website. And here are our lower priority items. So if we've got some subdomains that we don't need in the search results, let's just make sure that we've blocked them so search engines can't crawl those subdomains. This could be an internal section of your website for employees or a login page for a client. They really don't need to have those pages in the search results, so let's just block them to reduce the amount of times the search engines have to crawl pages that aren't really meant to be indexed. Social sharing. Do this in the footer of the website, not in the header. We don't want people to come to our website and say, hey, thanks for visiting us. Go visit our social. Right? Thanks for visiting us. Here's how you can interact with this page most efficiently. That's what we want to focus on. But some users want to know more about the company. They'll scroll to the footer, they'll click on Facebook, they'll click on TikTok, they'll click on LinkedIn, and they'll learn more about what other people are saying about the company. They'll see that it's live, and they'll learn about the people and the culture, and then they'll come back. It's all part of some people's diligence process. Open graph tags to make sure that we are presented really well in the search results. These are very simple OG meta tags that we put in the header of our site that enable us to sort of customize what the user is going to see if someone shares that URL on a Facebook post, including the image, a title, and a description. It's a great opportunity to show our brand off and tailor the experience if somebody shares a URL of our website in social. href lang tags, if we are addressing different languages, Spanish and English, we want to make sure that search engines know which version is which. So we'll use this href lang tag and say, basically, this is the default. This is our English page. Here's where you can find our Spanish version. Here's our French version. Really easy to use. It's just a couple pieces of code that you add to the header of each page. And it's a great way to help segment your content to the right users in the right languages and the right locations. Links to social exist at least on the homepage without the nofollow attribute. So a minute ago we mentioned linking to social profiles. Because Google trusts Facebook and TikTok and LinkedIn, because these are huge websites with a lot of authority, we don't want to add a nofollow to them because we want those social profiles to help build our knowledge graph around who we are. And when we nofollow something that belongs to us, it's almost like saying, I don't trust my own profile. We don't want to say that. So let's make sure that there's a regular plain old link on our page. Maybe rel equals no opener. That's okay, just not a rel equals no follow. That'll tell the search engines not to vote for that URL. And that's it. So you've watched my little walkthrough of what goes into a tech audit and how to prioritize it based on high, medium, and low. I hope you found this interesting, and if you want to see more of this content, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube and social channels. We're going to have a lot more of this, especially as we get into these large language models and emerging platforms here in years to come. Again, my name is Steve Wiedemann, known as SEO Steve, and I look forward to seeing you soon on the next post.